Hello, dreamers. Welcome back to the show. If this is your first time watching or listening, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. Hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Livin The Dream 506. Share it. Tell your friends about it. All that good stuff. Everything helps. So thanks at the very least for just being here. My guest today is an absolute rock and roll legend. From starting out as a member of the Allman Brothers Band, touring with Eric Clapton, David Gilmour, George Harrison, to name a few, and now a member for the last 4 decades and touring with one of the greatest rock bands of all time, the Rolling Stones. His new documentary, The Tree Man, is out now, and it's incredible. You'll love it. So without further ado, please give it up for Mr. Chuck Leavell.
Taste of Jessica. Living the dream. Living the dream. Living the dream. Living the dream. Living the dream.
So I'm here with Chuck Leavell, Allman Brothers Band, Rolling Stones. This is beyond an honor and a privilege for me. I'm very excited for this conversation, and thank you so much for being here.
You're very kind, Chris. It's great to be with you, my friend.
So let's jump right in. Last night was the first show of the tour. How did it go?
You know, I don't think it could have gone any better. It was a beautiful tribute to Charlie. Of course, this whole tour is a tribute to Charlie. They've put together some really lovely video to celebrate him that goes up on the big screen. You could feel the love from the audience when Mick made a little short statement about the fact that Charlie's no longer with us and that we dedicate this tour to him. So, yeah, and the band was tight. Steve Jordan's doing a fantastic job. He's a powerhouse of a drummer, and he's honoring Charlie by, playing certain parts the way Charlie would have done it, but being his own man at the same time. And I think it was a feeling of relief for all of us to get this one in the history books. Excuse me, as you know, we had to postpone last year. So it's been 2 years, and to go through all that we've been through and to have the show that we had last night was a great relief.
Yeah, 2 years. I mean, how was the energy? Was it just insane? The crowd, everything?
You know, it was. And as you probably know, there's been a lot of cancellations of tours, of individual shows, of festivals due to COVID. There was there's an air of uncertainty out there. And I think a lot of the people were like, well, they say they're going to come, but are they really going to come? And we really did. And we had a packed house. I think the figure we heard was something like 38,000 fans. Again, it was just a wonderful relief to get this one behind us. So now we can go forward with even more confidence. And I think the audience will feel more confident now that they've seen that there's been one that was successful.
Did it feel normal?
Yeah, it does. There's a lot of familiarity. I mean, I've been with these guys. This is the 39th year for me, which is pretty crazy. I mean, of course, we're not active every year, but that's how long I've been with the bands. Someone calculated on the last tour how many shows some of us have done with the band. And in my case, it was well over 1,000, probably somewhere around 1,200. So there was an air of familiarity to get up on that stage, to get behind my keyboard rig, to look over there and see Mick singing and dancing and moving around, and to look over there and see Keith being Keith. It was just a wonderful, wonderful feeling.
That's amazing. It's exciting to hear because everybody is just begging for a sense of normalcy, and everybody wants to get back to normal. But normal for people like me is live music, and this is just such a great thing to hear, that everybody was out, like 30,000-40,000 like you said, and that the feeling was somewhat normal and the music was flowing and everybody just kind of fell back into place, like you said.
Well, there's still challenges, and we are kept in a very, very tight bubble out here, much like the model of the sports teams. Tested for COVID twice a week, band and crew, staff, everybody, entourage, discouraged from going out publicly very much. You got to get out every now and then, but when we do go out, we're always masked up and very careful to social distance. And when you go to a restaurant, it's best if we can find an outdoor place. So there's protocols in place that make it different due to COVID, but we're getting around that, and it's getting better and better. I still have a hard time understanding these non-vaxxers that won't go get the shot. To me, it's no different from a flu shot, a polio shot, or anything of that nature. It's a matter of keeping your health in place. So that to me is very strange. And how it became politicized, I have no idea. I think that's just off the charts crazy. But anyway, we're making progress. I think we have, what is it now, 53, 54, maybe 55% of Americans that are all vaccinated. We need 80%. And so we just need to keep going towards that goal.
Definitely. So the past 2 years, waiting to tour, having to cancel all the time, how did you keep busy? Was it easy for you? I watched your documentary last night and just absolutely unbelievable. I loved it so much. The Tree Man, out now. And I assume you just spent your time in the woods on your property, just being happy and living the life.
Yeah, a good bit of that. Absolutely. There's a lot to keep me busy on Charlene, our place. And so, grooming the woods, doing all kinds of activities, keeping our roads up. We have a hunting business, a traditional Southern quail hunt there. So we plant feed plots and such. And we try to work with nature very closely to keep our land very healthy. Looking after our forests, there's always some activity to do with that, prescribed burns and such. But Capricorn Studios in Macon, Georgia, opened up about 2 years ago after being closed for decades. And of course, this is the studio that we recorded the Allman Brothers Band, Brothers and Sisters, and the Win, Lose or Draw record, and the Sea Level records, most of the Sea Level records that we did. Bands like Marshall Tucker Band, Charlie Daniels, Bonnie Bramlett, and so many others recorded there. So I was able to do some recording sessions remotely. People would send me the files and I would go to Capricorn and do the overdubs and then send them back. And so there was some musical activity as well, but no live performances. We were able, you may or may not be aware of the last show that we did do, March the 10th of 2020 at Madison Square Garden, which was a celebration of the Allman Brothers Band 50th anniversary. And we called it The Brothers. Warren Haynes, Derek Trucks, myself, Reese Winans on Hammond B3. Let's see, we had Dwayne Trucks playing drums along with JMO. And it was, we weren't sure we were even going to be able to do that show up until the morning of because of COVID. And the fact is that the next day, the 11th of March, is when New York City shut down. all the basketball. If you remember, that was one of the first things to go, was the basketball games, everything canceled. So it was a joy to get that one done, and it was a full house. We had a great time. It's now available on a DVD and Blu-ray and also audio discs. But the other thing, you mentioned the Tree Man, and so the COVID era also gave me a chance to do some promotions for the Tree Man. And just to let your listeners and the people viewing know, it's pretty much available on all the streaming services except Netflix. So it's on Apple TV Plus, it's on just all the Amazon Prime and all of those services. The only one that's really not yet available on is Netflix. Yeah. And it's also a hard copies available on Blu-ray and on regular DVD.
Perfect. Yeah, what a star-studded lineup for that Allman Brothers show you were just talking about. I always loved the bands that they put together for the shows. I was able to see in 2014 in Virginia at the Lock and Music Festival. I was able to see the Allman Brothers there. Yeah. And again, star-studded lineup, and yeah, just incredible. So I'd like to get back to the show last night. Like you were saying, Mick and Keith, everybody was just back, like you said, seemed back to normal a little bit, like fell back into place. The energy was all there, the excitement. What about you personally? Like, how did you feel? How was the vibe? How was your playing? How was everything?
From the get-go, it was just a blessing. We opened with Street Fighting Man, and we've had fantastic rehearsals over the past 6 weeks. We were in Boston rehearsing 5 days a week, about 4 to 5 hours a day, going through. It just reminds you what what we have to work with. The body of work is so incredible. I mean, we probably during that rehearsal period played 80 songs, something, maybe even more. I mean, everything from She's So Cold to 19th Nervous Breakdown and Under My Thumb and Sad, 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 and, contemporary stuff, stuff from the 60s, stuff from 70s, 80s. So, we worked very hard to put together a comprehensive set list that covered, you can't do it all, but you cover as much of that territory as you can to play the iconic songs that people come to hear, but still be able to throw something interesting in. And, we did Ghost Town, which was released during the COVID era and is certainly appropriate for these days. So, and the audience jumped right on it. There's a humming part where the audience can join in, and we were wondering, are they going to do it? Are they going to, sing the phrase? And they did. Everybody did. It was fantastic.
So that would have been a debut. That was the first time ever played live.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I suppose that's you don't really have to guess when you're the Rolling Stones if the crowd's going to know the song, but when it is the first time, I see what you're saying. I checked the set list out. Like you said, it's hard to curate a set list when every song's a hit, but I think 19 songs played last night, and just banger after banger, just incredible. And so for the whole tour, you said you rehearsed about 80 songs. Is every song going to make an appearance?
No, you can't bring them all. We settle into a situation where you do the iconic ones, and then excuse me, then you have the opportunity to throw in maybe as many as 4 or so different deep cuts, if you will. So it's it's for me, because I do the draft set list and I send to Mick, and Mick makes his comments, and then of course it goes to Keith to see if he has anything to say, and to Ronnie, and that's the way it works. And so you settle into this outline, if you will, where you've got these opportunities, 4 or so songs that you can trade in and out. And we do the what we call the vote song, where we engage the folks on social media, we put up 4 songs to choose from, and they vote for which one of the 4 they prefer, and that's a fun part of the set.
Now, what's the feeling like for you? I mean, you've played all the hits hundreds of times. Songs like Ghost Town, is that something you really look forward to, getting to play a new song live? Like, is it a different experience for you?
Well, yeah, and I was not on the recording. Matt Clifford played the keyboards on the recording and did a good job. So I had to kind of invent my part for the live version of it, and that was a lot of fun, to come up with. And I'm playing Hammond B3 on that one, so it's almost like a reggae type organ part that I'm doing in it. And yes, it's a nice little challenge to have come up with a new bit for a new song. And there's other new releases that are going to be with the re-release of Tattoo You. There's a song called Living in the Heart of Love, and then a Shy-Lights deep track cover called Troubles A-Comin'. So those will probably make it into the tour at some point, but they're unfamiliar to the audience now. Ghost Town is familiar, at least to most of the fans. So we need a little time for these others to get released and people to go on YouTube and, download and stream these other songs so that they at least kind of have some knowledge of what the song is. So, that's probably going to come a third into the tour where we can start doing some of that. Yeah.
Now, on days off like today, what's the landscape for Chuck? What do you do on days like today?
You see this, don't you? I try to keep the chops up, do a little work. I'm in my gym clothes. I don't know, you can't really see it all, but I'll go to the gym and work out. And tomorrow is a travel day, so I'm going to be packing up some things that I don't really need and send back home. And then, tighten up the suitcases and get ready for the luggage call tomorrow morning. It's a absolutely beautiful day in St. Louis here. So I like to get out and about and walk. There's the last couple of days, I discovered Washington University here in St. Louis. Excuse me, kind of froggy this morning. And it's a beautiful, beautiful campus, just absolutely stunning. So I did probably a 2-mile walk through all the campus. The buildings are gorgeous. The grounds are well kept and everything. So I'll get out and about for a walk.
So is that like watching that documentary last night? You have, like, for some people, myself included, you have just the picture perfect life of outdoorsy, lots of land. You're a musician for one of the greatest rock bands of all time. And you're just you get up and have breakfast. Everything's so happy and just, I couldn't help but be envious of your life and just how you hold yourself. What's the secret? Like, you say you work out, you get outside, you're not letting the stresses in. Is that the secret? Like, just tell me what your secret is. I don't know how else to put it.
I don't know that there's any secret to it, but having the life at Charlene really does provide a balance for me. I think it's really easy for a lot of musicians and artists to get caught up in the whatever it is, the glamour of it, the lifestyle that can suck you in, and to have that other thing, to be able to go out into the woods and hear the sound of the wind in the pines instead of horns honking in a big city, or even loud music or whatever it might be. It just really provides a great balance for me. And I love it. It's physically challenging, and the work is physical. You get out there with chainsaws and other tools that require using your body to work the land. I love that part of it. I love my dogs, and we take them into the woods and walk around, or take one of our buggies or whatever and let the dogs run and have some fun with that. But I've always said that to me, life is all about balance. You know, it's good to have whatever your vocation is, whether you're a writer, journalist, or whether you're, a doctor, a lawyer, whatever you might be, but to have something else that helps keep you balanced. Maybe you're a doctor and you like to write, or maybe you're a lawyer, but you love playing golf. I mean, I think it's really important to have, very important to have physical activities that you do that help keep you in shape, healthy, and give you a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a question sent in actually, and it relates to the whole band. And a lot of people think this, but like Alex Matheson asked, how has Keith's lifestyle on the road changed since the 80s? And what's it like now? And is he actually a pirate?
He is actually a pirate, yes. But, Keith, believe it or not, has quit smoking cigarettes. He's quit drinking. A lot of artists go through periods where you're experimenting with drugs or you go through alcohol or whatever. And, Keith has just got an amazing willpower. And if he wants to stop drinking, boom, no problem. He wants to give those cigarettes up, no cold turkey. It's just, I'm done with it, So his willpower is incredibly strong. Look, I'm 69 years old. Mick and Keith are 78. Charlie, God bless him, died at age 80. And I think Ronnie's, somewhere in his 70s. And it's important that we keep ourselves in shapes where we can get up on that stage and work. And we each have our own way of making that happen.
Yeah. You look great. I mean, I was like watching that documentary, like I'm getting gray. That's the only distinguishment that would separate you from early Chuck Leavell is the color of the hair. Otherwise, you still look like you're in your 30s. Well,
look, Chris, I've been painting my hair this color for many decades now. I found out chicks really like this. So.
There you go.
No, I appreciate that, man. But again, I think it goes to just being cognizant of doing physical activities and trying to look after yourself. And, every day is a blessing, man. I can't believe that I still get to do this, to get out here and play at this level with these guys and with others. In 2016, I had the great pleasure of doing the David Gilmour tour. Got to sing the counterpart to Comfortably Numb and work with great musicians. Greg Fillinganes, my old pal that I worked with when we were both with Eric Clapton many years ago and with George Harrison. We tag team on that tour as well. So, it's you want to be able to do these things. You want to be able to work with these artists and these musicians, and it requires a certain degree of looking after yourself so you can do that.
Yeah, I rewatched the Comfortably Numb performance this morning because, like I said, I watched it last night, and that's the first time I'd ever heard it. And I knew you'd played with David Gilmour, but I didn't know you sang the counterpart. And yeah, and then the snarl that you were talking about for the vocals, I thought that was just so incredible. And what was it like touring with David Gilmour and being able to be a part of that performance?
David is one of the most incredible human beings I've ever met. Some people may know this, but I bet a lot of your viewers don't know that he was a very accomplished pilot. He learned how to fly many, many decades ago, and he got so good at it that he started collecting World War II airplanes, jets, Spitfires, and he started a whole company to own all of these airplanes. He doesn't do it anymore, but that guy could fly anything. And, it takes a lot of wherewithal to be able to do that and to be a safe pilot, So as you saw in the documentary, when he was a young man and you go to the counselor when you're in a high school or whatever it is, and, you talk about what you might want to do going forward for a living. And it was forestry for him. And, David's an incredible woodworker. He's also a great environmentalist. He's planted so many trees on his own beautiful property in England. So there's a lot to David Gilmour is the point. And then, let's talk about his guitar playing. Let's talk about his songwriting and his incredible vocals. And but a sweetheart of a guy, just really pleasant to be around. Great conversationalist, great family man. His family was out with him on tour, and I love seeing that. And so what a joy and an honor it was. And the other guys and girls on the stage with us, it was just an honor.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just, I mean, legend to legend. Hearing these stories is just surreal, really. And you mentioned touring with Eric Clapton and George Harrison. What's the experience like? These questions are so vague, but it's like, I just want to hear what you have to say about touring with these legends.
Well, I'm sure you saw it in the documentary, but in the case of Eric, he was a special guest on the Steel Wheels tour on several shows, and they put him right next to me physically on the stage, and we did the song "Little Red Rooster," a Howlin' Wolf song. And so, I'm from the South, man. I've got blues in these hands, and my fingers have a Southern accent. Okay, so. I love playing that kind of thing. And so we had a really fun musical exchange. He'd give me a little glance of of course, I didn't want to step on him because he's Eric Clapton, for heaven's sake. But I tried to compliment what he was doing. So at the end of the Steel Wheels tour, I get home, and dadgummit, I could not find this thing for the documentary. I looked everywhere, and I know I've got it somewhere, but there was back in the days of cassette recordings for your telephone answering machine, I had a cassette of Eric calling me at the end of the Steel Wheels tour saying, "Hello, this is Eric Clapton calling for Chuck Leavell, wondering if he'd be interested in playing some shows at the Royal Albert Hall." Yeah, I'd be very interested in that. So, that's kind of been the story of my career. One thing leads to another, getting to work with the Allman Brothers was in part what led me to the Stones, because it was Bill Graham, the great promoter he had Fillmore East, Fillmore West, and he loved the Allman Brothers Band. I came into the Allmans, and he was, I think, skeptical. What's a piano player doing in a guitar band, Right. But I won him over, and I made my contributions, and we became very good friends. And Bill Graham helped me very much with Sea Level. And so, he became tour director for the Stones, and they wanted new blood. And Bill said, I say kid, there's this kid in Georgia that you should call. And of course, I was almost 30 at the time. But I get the call, from Bill's office, and I go for the audition, and I get the gig. So, I've always been a goal-oriented person. My father was that way. I can remember him talking to me about setting goals. And, when I decided that music was going to be my career, I said, okay, what would be a goal I could set? And that was to be with a popular and good musical band by the time I'm 20. And that was the Allman Brothers Band. I had just turned 20 when I got that gig. And the further goal was to be in another popular band, a good band, by the time I was 30. And that's how the Stones thing came about. So I've been very fortunate to meet these goals.
I think you mentioned it in the movie, you make your own luck.
Yes, exactly. That was one of the sayings that my dad always had. And it's kind of learning how to be at the right place at the right time, learning to listen. When young people ask me advice about playing with other bands, or how do you pursue your career, be a good listener. It's listen to what that drummer's doing, listen to what that bass player's doing, and see what you can find to complement that. And also listen to what the main artists, what are Mick and Keith and Ronnie looking for? What do you want me to do? What is this song asking me to do? Listen to the song, listen to the lyrics, listen to the melodies, the beats, and find something that you feel like you can contribute and make a positive difference with.
Yeah, and I think you may be one of the best of all time at doing that, just as a session musician and as a live performer, just being able to take what's happening and adding a whole other song to it in your own feeling, your own taste. And it's just all the people mentioning it in the documentary, John Mayer, everybody saying that your part is the part that you hum in the song.
Well, they were very gracious, all of those people. You know, when we decided to do the documentary, and my my motivation was mainly to have, you know, something documented for my family, for future generations. We have 4 grandchildren now, you know, and you get to this point and you start thinking about that. And so that was really the motivation. And then all of a sudden, the reality, my filmmaker, Alan Forrest, who I have to compliment, he's just a great guy and just did a fabulous job he did most all of the filming except for the historic stuff. And he did all the interviews. But, you know, Alan, when we made the agreement, he said, you know, you have to use your best efforts to get these people to do interviews and talk to me, you know, about you. And I thought, oh my God, what have I done? You know, now I've got to ask these favors, and oh God, how do you know? And it became a challenge and a little embarrassing, you know, to send that email. But we wound up with a pretty cool formula in which I would do the initial contact with Eric or with John or with, you know, whoever it might be. And I would make a phone call or an email and just make a very short statement. Hey, wondering if you'd, you know, consider having a short interview at your convenience with my filmmaker, Alan Forrest. And then Alan would do the heavy lifting after that. You know, if they agreed, then Alan made all the arrangements and would go. And I didn't see any of those interviews, any of them, until he finished the film. So I had no idea. Well, maybe they're talking bad about me. I don't know what they're saying. But fortunately, it really did work out smoothly, and everyone was so gracious. They really were.
Yeah, it turned out incredible. I loved it. I have one last question for you.
Right.
What was the scene and vibe like between Keith and Mick during the Dirty Work sessions, especially since it was one of the most dancey eras, i.e. Harlem Shuffle, and that was sent in by Ryan Kinney?
Well, you know, it's pretty well documented that there's been periods of time when the guys weren't getting along all that well. But, you know, to me, that's a sign of greatness when you have these periods that may be difficult, but you find a way through it. You know, you find a way through it. And we found a way through it on those sessions. You know, there were tense moments from time to time. But, you know, once we all sat behind our instruments and started playing music, that's when it, like, the other stuff goes away, you know. But there were some trying times in both Undercover, the record Undercover, and the Dirty Work period. But as I said, you know, the guys, music is paramount. Music puts everything aside. And that's been one of the incredible things about the Rolling Stones. How in the world do you stay a band for 60 years? And God bless Charlie, he missed it by 1 year to celebrate that. And we're hoping to be able to celebrate that 60th anniversary next year. So, you know, keep the fingers crossed and keep hope alive.
Absolutely. And you said, God bless Charlie. Before we go, I just want to say how sorry I am for your loss. A legend of a drummer.
Yeah.
Seeing everybody talk about it and just sharing stories about how great he was and just his precision and knowing exactly what to do at all times. It's a hard loss. Hard to talk about, but maybe send us off with a few words, maybe a story about Mr. Charlie Watts.
Oh man. You know, Charlie, to me, the incredible thing about him, of course, most people know he loved jazz. And so here you've got this jazz drummer in a rock band. And he brought that sensibility and sensitivity and that whole feeling into this world. And the thing about Charlie used really heavy sticks, but he had a very small kit, as you know. It was just, very simple snare, mounted tom, floor tom, bass drum, hi-hat, couple of cymbals, and that's it. A lot of rock drummers have this huge array. And he made that little kit sound bigger than any other drummer in the world. And he had a delicate touch, but those big sticks is what gave him the tone, so he didn't have to play hard. He played delicately, but the outcome was this powerful beat, and it sounded like thunder. It sounded like, God on the drums. But it was all because of the technique, because of, his personality. As one of the sweetest guys on the planet. We had so many, he was also very in tune to environmental concerns. He and his wife, Shirley, have had a horse farm, 200 Arabian horses that they kept at a farm that they lived on in England. I think Shirley is carrying that on. But, we had so many great conversations just about life in general, about environmentalism, about music. He was gracious to play with me sometimes on side gigs that I would do. And I miss him greatly. We all do. But as I've said during this period of time, we honor Charlie by carrying on. Charlie Watts would never want to be the reason this band stopped. And he gave Steve Jordan his blessing before he passed away. We knew that he couldn't make the tour when he was in the hospital. And, Steve's name came up and Charlie said, absolutely, that's who you need. But we all thought he would get better. The doctors thought he would get better. And when the news came, that was just a shock. We were, it was like a gut punch, and we miss it.
Absolutely. Rest in peace, Charlie Watts.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for this. Is there any chance you could play us out with the...
Well, let me see. I got to turn this rascal on. Let me see. Can you hear that?
Yep.
Taste of Jessica.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you so much for this. It's been an absolute honor, and good luck on the rest of the tour. And I hope to see you sometime soon.
Take care. All the best.
You too. Cheers.
Livin' the dream.